Yo, welcome back. This is Victor with The Stereo Untypical. Now get comfortable. This one is going to be a little longer than some of our other conversations. Last week, we got episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Immediately, the show takes the time to get us acquainted with John Walker. He's pretty much the great value Captain America. The can looks the same, but the contents inside are gonna leave you disappointed, and you know it. I'm not gonna lie, I actually liked his little introduction this episode. The all-American guy revisiting his old school, preparing to launch the next chapter in his life. Shaken by the weight of the expectation ahead of him, he consults his sweetheart and his Marvel Standard Issue cool black best friend. Let's talk about it. One of the big themes of the show seems to be navigating the expectations that the world is laying in front of you. Sam's doing it, Bucky's doing it, and now we get to see a direct contrast in John Walker and his friend Lamar Hopkins. Both pairs represent legacy. On one hand, we have Sam, Cap's chosen successor of the mantle of Captain America, and Bucky, the old friend worthy of redemption. On the other hand, we have John and Lamar, the credentialed soldiers that seem to represent a battered country's false sense of security and its pride. They're what the super duo should look like, according to the United States government and the MCU. If you've read the comics or you're familiar with the history of John Walker, there's some major foreshadowing presented with the character's introduction. But I'm not going to be the one to spoil that for you. After we see the new Captain America introduced, we're reunited with Sam and Bucky for the first time in the series. Bucky makes it known that he does not approve of Sam giving away the shield. Sam also begins to express some regret, but admittedly, there's not much he can do about it at this point. The two head to Munich to follow a lead that Sam's picked up on the Flag Smashers, and we finally get to see them in action. They're a little rusty, they're quippy, and honestly, that's about it. They get beat up and tossed around and walk away with the revelation that there's new super soldiers on the block. During their fight, Discount Captain America shows up to help them get beat up. The big takeaway from his presence in this fight is that he's highly emotional, less powerful than Steve, and he's completely okay with using the pistol he carries on his hip, especially when he's in a jam. Now, I would try and make the point that he somehow has less value for human life than Steve Rogers, but let's not be hypocritical. The Flag Smashers carry on about their day, and we get some indication that there's a power broker operating behind the scenes, and they're not too happy with the Flag Smashers' actions. As a result, Flag Smasher number 2, I don't know what his name is. He seems like the heart of the team. He gets shot and killed in the streets, Pietro style. Now, it's clearly an emotional moment for the team, and I think it hints at some of the vulnerability and desperation that I was hoping to see from the series antagonist. Now, one of the most compelling reveals of this episode actually happens shortly after Bucky and Sam leave Munich. I hinted at it a little bit in my expectation videos, but I think it's fair that we talk a little bit more about Mr. Isaiah Bradley.
There is someone that you should meet.
In short, Sam and Bucky go to Baltimore to visit an unknown person. They find out that there's another super soldier, an old black man who served in the Korean War. He's none too pleased to see Bucky or Sam, and quite frankly, we get the idea that he doesn't care about helping them. To understand and appreciate the actual significance of Isaiah Bradley, you need to know what he's an analog for. And I know I may lose some of you here. The United States has had a very shameful past when it comes to its treatment of African people and their American-born descendants. Throughout history, it's very well documented that the U.S. has used African American soldiers in a variety of, well, let's just say, ill-intentioned ways. Many receiving faulty weapons, second-hand gear, many not acknowledged for their feats of bravery and valor on the battlefield, and some used as fodder for tactical purposes. Isaiah Bradley is an analog for that soldier, valued but not protected. In the character's initial comic run, the comic was a real parallel to the very real-life Tuskegee experiment. The Tuskegee experiment was essentially a clinical study that monitored the course of infections and disease if left untreated, specifically in black men. And in the comics, Isaiah Bradley and several of his squad were forcibly enhanced with the fictional super soldier serum in an attempt to replicate the serum that had successfully enhanced Steve Rogers. Well, the serum didn't work on most of his squad and caused severe complications and death, much like the Tuskegee experiment, just being real. However, Isaiah Bradley was enhanced and could perform many of the feats Captain America was known for, but with complications down the line. In the show, Bucky states that he fought Isaiah during the Korean War and believed he might be a good lead on info about this new super soldier serum. And the reason why I'm going into so much detail here is because I believe this is a major element of the show, one that Sam may be feeling internally but not vocalizing. So I watched Twitter and other social media platforms to get an idea of the response fans are having to the series. Many are more concerned with Bucky's feelings and his response to things that are happening, and understandably outraged by the presence of the new Captain America. Don't get me wrong, I think Bucky, and being specific, Sebastian Stan, was the standout character in episode 2. His emotional beats, I think, will carry a little bit further with some fans. However, I think a lot of people are missing the point. In this MCU world, many things are very similar to our own world socially. All these characters are a part of the greater Captain America story. Captain America has always been a very political comic. In its original form, it was American wartime propaganda, and no disrespect intended by saying that, but that's what it was. And as I've said before, our media will always reflect our society and what's happening in the world. So I'm not upset by that. So what am I saying? Well, my friends, I do believe that Sam has not accepted the mantle of Captain America because he doesn't believe that America will accept him as their Captain America. Much like how I didn't expect Disney to pass the role to Anthony Mackie, it doesn't come from a place of him being incapable. Neither Sam nor Anthony Mackie are incapable of filling their respective roles that lay in front of them. But their respective audiences may not be ready or willing to see and accept them in those different positions. With all of that being said, I believe this establishes some context for why Sam was so upset that no one told him that Isaiah existed. Much like how Bucky is worried that Steve could have been wrong for choosing Sam, and by extension, wrong for believing in the goodness that still exists within Bucky, Sam might have just seen confirmation of his skepticism in Isaiah's existence and his history, that America might not want to celebrate a Sam Wilson the same way it would celebrate a John Walker, just as it hasn't celebrated its Isaiah Bradleys. But time will tell, and honestly, I could be completely off base with my assessment, Marvel may not want to go down that road. And in world, the United States might not want Sam as Captain America because he violated the Sokovia Accords. I mean, that did make him an international criminal, but then again, he wasn't the only one who violated it. And it was with the understanding that other actions needed to happen. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. I want to know what your thoughts and speculations are going forward from here. Will this change the tone of the series? Will it escalate things in your opinion? I know this one was a little bit heavier than the last, so thanks for staying until the end if you made it. This has been Victor with the Stereo Untypical. Oh yeah, Black Falcon out.
Okay, no, forget it. Black Falcon out. Green Falcon!